It is the Martha Zoller Show, and we're going to get all into the whole Democratic debate as well as that interview they had on Friday night where, as an audio person, the number one question I got from people was, why did it sound so loud with this background noise? And it was because he was speaking so low that they had to turn him up so loud compared to George Stephanopoulos, that if you go back and listen to this interview they did with the president and George Stephanopoulos, it's like this roaring sound in the background because they had to turn him up so loud. So we got a lot to say about all of that. I'm back. I had to come back to rest because I've spent the last 2 weeks taking care of my grandchildren, which is really kind of fun. And I had a great time with that. But also, it is the 8th of July, and so I want to wish happy birthday to my father-in-law, Linwood Zoller Jr. He is 92 today, so want to wish Pop happy birthday, and we're going to be taking him out tomorrow because, 92 in one day is just all right. It's my first day back at work, so we're going to do it tomorrow and wish him happy birthday. But joining me right now to kind of get me back in the groove is Sam Couvillon. He is the mayor of Gainesville, and we have so much going on in the city of Gainesville. We wanted to have him in to talk about it today. Sam, how are you?
Good morning. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I hope you had a good, restful vacation.
Well, I was taking care of grandchildren, so it wasn't very restful, but it was good. And I got to take my hat off to Quinlan Art Center and their art camp. They have a day camp that runs 9 to 2. I put the kids the first week in that. The second week, we just hung out and, had normal summer days, whatever those are. But the first week I took them to art camp, and it was great.
I know Narika Cornett runs the Quinlan, and that art camp, she doesn't run the art camp, but the Quinlan has just really rocketed, the last 4 or 5 years under her leadership. And that's another one of these little gems that we have here in Gainesville that I feel blessed that we can take advantage of. I know some good friends had their rehearsal dinner there Friday night. It's just a great place.
Well, and I got to tell you, and I shouldn't say this because it was great, but it was $150 a kid for the week. And that is like the best deal. It's 9 to 2. So if you're a working parent, it's a little more difficult because you're done at 2:00.
Correct.
But for not wanting to have a little time to still go swimming and fishing, so they still went swimming afterwards, and then my husband took them fishing when he got home from work. So it was but it was just enough that they wanted to go every day.
Yes.
And it wasn't hard to get them to go.
I think you make a good point. Now that I think about that, if you go more than that, 5 hours or so, the kids, they begin to probably think it's like school. And they're like, I don't want to go back. But, it's probably just enough to capture their
well, and I did sign them up for the second week, and they were just like, hey, Oma, we just want to hang out at home. So that's what we did.
Yeah, well, good.
Because it's what Oma wants to do, and we want to make the kids happy, that's for sure. Anyway, so let's talk first. The number one thing that I get when I go around, and I know some of this is this complicated relationship that you have with the other municipalities as well as with the county and all of that, but traffic, okay? And it's summertime, so around the schools, it doesn't matter if it's Gainesville City schools or it's Hall County schools, there's all kinds of projects going on around. But give us an overview, especially on Green Street, of what is happening big in the city of Gainesville related to traffic.
Yeah, I would be lying to you if I didn't say that.
That's the number one complaint you get.
Well, and it's something that me and the rest of the city council and Brian Lackey, the city manager, that's something we think of every day. How we can better move people through the community. We've invested heavily into a system where we have a home base at the city manager's office where we can control the traffic lights. They're timed. When there's times where they're unusually backed up, we can manipulate them from that hub, and it's something that we're trying to expand throughout the city. But doing that it's not something that we can just take care of overnight. And then when you have emergency vehicles go through the intersections, then it messes up the timing. So it's a moving target. Now, you asked specifically about Green Street. And oftentimes, in fact, I got this, my good friend R.K. Whitehead, he dinged me the other day about a pothole on Green Street. And he was like, how can we get that fixed? And, that is not under the city's purview. Now, we are definitely interested in Green Street because that's the main corridor, or one of the main corridors. So what we have done is we've worked closely with the DOT to get them.
So it's a DOT route.
Correct. It's a state route, so it's their responsibility. And so I think anybody who has driven on Green Street the last 20 years realizes there needs to be an upgrade, not only from the fact that they're narrow lanes, not only from the fact that we have people making left turns, and the more traffic we put on the roads, the more that becomes problematic, but from a flooding perspective, we finally got some rain last night, thank you. And but I imagine when that deluge was coming down, it becomes problematic to drive, and it's really unsafe. So what we've done is so DOT had that project maybe pushed out to 2033, and the city has invested. We went to the DOT and we said, hey, look, if we do the engineering and design work, pay for it, would that move it up? And so we got that moved up to 2025, which they've now told us, I think most recently at our most recent transportation meeting, I think it's been now moved to 2026. But what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the power lines and put them underground along Green Street. We're going to take all of the stormwater infrastructure, a lot of it that is the original stuff from the 1930s. We're going to replace all of that and upgrade the street. It's going to have a very thin median, narrow median, and we're going to get rid of the left turns. And then on one end of Green Street, you'll have a roundabout down where the chamber is and where the Brunel Tiger is.
And the tree, the rotary tree.
Yes, the rotary tree. And of course, we've, Mike McGraw with Rotary has kind of taken that upon himself on what would it be to relocate it? Where could we relocate it? One of the options would be down at the Civic Center. And, if that's can be done, then, we certainly are on board to help accommodate that as well. But I think that would go a long way of helping traffic move. To give you an idea of what kind of traffic is moving through that corridor, and if we just go a little further south, the intersection of E.E. Butler and Jesse Jewell, right now we have, I think, 56,000 people pass exit 22 on 985. That's a 4-lane highway. That intersection, we're getting 52,000 people a day passing through there. So, you can imagine the volume of traffic in that one intersection versus a 4-lane interstate highway. So, we're looking at how we can improve that area as well. Expanding turn lanes, making them a little bit longer, try to help move traffic a little easier. Ultimately, to make a big change in the traffic, we need to do something grand. And I think the T-Splosh, which is going to be on the ballot, so people are going to have the option to vote for that in the fall. But we have some preliminary designs to move traffic when you come off of 985. It would deter people from coming directly into downtown and kind of push them around. I don't want to say it's a bypass, but it does kind of bypass you. If you're wanting to go to North Hall, you would just get off, and then it would just send you up through New Holland and up Limestone. So if we can reduce traffic, 15, 20% in that area, it would go a long way.
Well, I jokingly say that Green Street is only a 4-lane road because of paint, because those lanes are barely wide enough to be 4-lane. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the cars were smaller when it was expanded to 4 lanes. Now the cars are bigger, all of that. But it's a joke. And I don't know if the post office is in the city's purview, but, what is the status of the post office? Yeah,
well, first on Green Street, driving on that, if you ever drove with a 15-year-old teenager learning how to drive, it is white-knuckling there. But, yes, the post office, one thing I want to do is sing Doug Collins's praise. When he was the congressman from the 9th District, he had us on the list to be moved, and ultimately, he left that office, and when that happened, we kind of fell off the list. We really need somebody to advocate to get that done. that is a booger right there. It's a lot of traffic, slowing down. Most people want to go later in the afternoon, so it's when the heavy volume is going. You have people coming from the other direction trying to turn left across traffic to get into the post office. And if we were able to get the post office, and if you think about the size of that facility, because way back when it was used as a full service post office, and but now it's just kind of a retail spot. You just come in there and buy stamps and you have mail packages, but they're not sorting and all that other stuff. That gets done over on Monroe Drive. So it would really be nice if we could find a good home for the post office and free that up. And because Brunel has interest in that building, and they have agreed that if they were able to take it off, they would close access on Green Street, which would just help flush the traffic through a lot more.
Well, and I think, too, there are so many places out there now, like, for example, the UPS store that's down on Thompson Bridge Road. They do mail there. They'll accept mail packages there. The FedEx store on up the road in my neighborhood, they will accept mail there too. So there's a lot of options out there, but there are still some times where you need to go to the post office. I had something happen recently that I had one of those QR codes. It was a USPS package. I went to the UPS store because they normally could take it if there's a label, but they can't print labels. So I had to go on down to the post office and get it done, which was fine. I didn't mind doing it, but it's complicated because there's more mail in certain areas like packages. There's less mail in other areas like letters. And so it's a changing market, really, and they're not sure what they're doing yet.
And not to change the subject, but it's kind of online. The whole mail system right now, people are losing confidence in it. I mean, I just got my United Way gala invite in the mail about 3 weeks ago. Well, that happened in May. It's not dependable. We had a friend who got married this weekend, and they went and hand delivered all of the local invites that they could.
And it's so sad because I have always been a real advocate for the post office because I really think for when they work right, what they charge is a bargain. Do you know what I mean?
Agreed.
And so I said years ago when they went up to like 45 cents, I said they ought to just go on up to $1. Go ahead because it's still cheaper than going UPS or anything else, and then just not raise the prices every so often. But anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about some of the growth around here in this beautiful square that we've got and also throughout the city. We'll talk more about all of that next. It is the Martha Zoller Show, and the fact of the matter is all governments end in failure. Someone gets voted out, and they end in failure. We're seeing this around the world as we talk about today. But the governments that are the most interesting, that people spend the least amount of time on, and the least amount of concern about is local government. This is the Martha Zoller Show. The people that actually control the money you spend and that you can see how they spend your money right in front of your door are your local governments. Mayor Sam Couvillon is here with me today, and I'm looking out this beautiful window right now of this fantastic square revival. How are we doing there? And I want to ask you about Mr. Iverster's idea of making all four sides of the square like this side of the square and getting rid of all the traffic here. So let's talk about the projects that are still to do, but also then about long term.
Yeah, so Friday night was a great night for the city of Gainesville. We had one of our first Fridays, and we suspect we had north of 2,000 people on the square. We also had at Boot Barn Hall, they were celebrating their 1-year anniversary. They had Lone Star in concert, probably another 400 or 500 people there. Just a big night for downtown Gainesville. And one of the things we did this weekend, we want to put training wheels on it, so we closed the square to traffic all weekend. I saw a few posts on social media with families who had come out to the square and they had their kids on their scooters, and the kids were able to, ride around, and the parents are able to sit down and eat ice cream and not have to worry about, is their child going to run out into traffic? So we're going to look at that and see how that is accepted or how it's received from the community before we just dictate and say we're going to just remove all traffic off the square. It's just something that we're looking at. One thing that we're always interested in doing is trying to see how we can make things better. I will say this: we've got some exciting things to come. I think there's talk about another downtown hotel coming to the square, to the general vicinity of the square, I should say. And it's just exciting. It's an exciting time to be part of Gainesville.
Yeah, I'm very excited when I just think about the way the square was when Lynn and I moved here about 30 years ago and where it is today. Now, the biggest change I've seen is, one, there's a lot more people on the square, more than one change. Two, a lot more people walking dogs. Now, is that an issue as far as what dogs do when they get walked? Are people being good stewards of their dogs when they're walking their dogs? Are you getting a lot of complaints about that?
So on the square itself, we're not getting complaints. Of course, the city does provide bags so people can take care of their
business.
Thank you. But I mean, where some of the new residential, the downtown living areas, we have gotten some complaints, and so we've really leaned on the owners of these residential places to implore on their citizens that they need to clean up after their dogs, because the increased population, the more dogs, it's going to drive more hassles. We
and that's
really
something
need to
you
take
don't
care
want
of
to talk
ourselves.
about, but it's a real thing.
No, it is
that you got to deal with.
It is. I mean, it's just like anything else. When you put more people in one area, there's going to be more issues to deal with. I will say this: one other thing about downtown and focusing on making sure it's safe is we are about to open a downtown precinct, police precinct, because we really want people. Public safety is our first and primary concern, and we want people to be able to come downtown and feel safe. And so we think by having that downtown precinct will just give us that much more success in making people feel comfortable.
So we're going to talk to Sam Couvillon in the next segment also, but also that was a great little tease to what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to have Sheriff Couch and Chief Parrish here to talk about law enforcement throughout the whole community and what people are concerned about there too. So we're going to be very focused on local this week, in addition to all the national issues that you come to the Martha Zoller Show for. We'll be back. Lots more to come. It is the Martha Zoller Show. And Sam, I know I'm not going to get you to comment on national politics, but here's the President of the United States admitting it's too dangerous for him to get out of the car. But yet, who's been president?
Yeah, and I mean, he also said yesterday that without the people of Philadelphia, he never would have won any of his Senate seats. And he was the senator from Delaware. So, I mean, look, I'm happy to comment on national politics at any time. I just feel I don't want to make light of this. I had a father-in-law who died of dementia, and there are telltale signs there. No, I cannot diagnose him, but my eyes do not lie to me.
Yeah, he has gotten, and if you just look at him, even in the last 4 years, how he has downgraded. And again, I've just lost my mother-in-law, and she had advanced Alzheimer's disease when she died. She died of cancer, but she had advanced Alzheimer's disease. And you think I wouldn't give her the keys to the car, much less the nuclear codes.
It's a linear disease. It does not
get better.
You're not going to take a medicine and get better the next day. You might have better days than others, but one thing's for sure, it's going to go in one direction. And I remember, and I'm going to say this man's name, Barclay Rushton, great community guy here in our community. He pulled my mother-in-law aside and said, "Nancy, Walton needs to retire. People are talking." And somebody needs to have that tough conversation with the president. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we've had situations like that happen, and it's time for him to step aside. It's time to, as President John Kennedy said, it is time to pass the torch to a new generation. Okay, and I think that it is that time. But we're talking about the city of Gainesville right now, and it looks like just about everything that's been built on the square is built and open. You mentioned the 1-year anniversary of Bourbon Barrel, and I was here on Friday night. I got to tell you, I was not impressed at all with the service at at Bourbon Barrel. I was very, very slow. I know they were busy, but it was still slow on top of that, which I've been to lots of restaurants. I've been to going to a lot, and if they're busy, they'll come and they'll say, "Hey, checking in on you. I know you're busy." This was like ignored for 20 or 30 minutes before anybody came in. So that's a problem. And they got to get that together. And I think people are tired. I think during COVID, they were willing to hear, "Hey, we're having a really hard time finding people." But now we're far enough out of COVID that people just want you to fix it. If they're going to go out and spend what they're spending for a meal right now, they want good service.
That's right. I mean, everybody wants, I think, I had access to a coach one time, and he said, if you give somebody an opportunity to make an excuse, they will. And we have leaned on COVID a little bit too long at this point. I mean, it's time to move on and figure out how to advance ourselves.
So a couple of years ago, you got a lot of flack for these buildings that the city of Gainesville were sort of building out for restaurants, but in both cases, that's been real successful, hasn't it?
So, I mean, what we're seeing is there's more and more population downtown, with the apartments that were built. And so I would venture, that I dined at Scott's last Tuesday night, and there was a healthy crowd in Scott's. I mean, that's
one of the bar open there?
No,
well, yet.
The old lounge has not opened, the backside. Everything is directed at the front side, but they've added a bar to that front side. It's really a cool venue. I mean, I would encourage everybody to go check it out. They've done a really good job with it. As you know, it's a big space, and so even when there's a good crowd in there, you look around and no one is near you. But heck, you can have a good private conversation as well. But yeah, I think our downtown businesses, I think, are thriving right now, and the growth is there. My emails, I hear people say that they don't like the growth, and I'm always mindful that if you're not growing, you're dying. I'm at the age of 53. I need doctors that want to move to Gainesville so that in my waning years, I have somebody to take care of me. If I have a 25-year-old who wants to come work in Gainesville, we need jobs that those people can, will want to work at.
So you've mentioned apartments a couple of times, and the big thing that I hear about is homes, okay? And I am starting to see, because I have a little alert on Zillow, like I think everybody in the world has, and I am starting to see some properties open up that are more affordable in Gainesville. I'm starting to see, and I can't believe I'm saying $350 to $400 is affordable, but that's what affordable is right now with the interest rates that we have and all that kind of stuff. Is there any construction going on within the city limits for affordable homes to buy?
So that is a large spectrum there, and it's one I love to talk about. The apartments that are downtown, those are not going to ever be considered affordable living. Those are targeted for the 20-somethings, the young professionals that want to live, work, and play downtown, and not drive, have walkability. The homes that you're talking about, the $350,000 homes, $400,000 homes, I mean, you're right. Is that affordable? I don't know, but it seems like a stretch to me. You're going to have to put $60,000 to $80,000 down, not to have PMI in your mortgage payment. So the next thing is what they talk about attainable housing, workforce housing, and that's where our police officers, our teachers, we really need to find that. And so the city has been trying to do its part. We've recently received a rural workforce housing grant from the state, where down in what we call Midland, just south of the train tracks, and we're going to be building 20 to 25 homes there. Also, we're going to partner with Norton. They're going to build 66 homes down there. So these are, this will be inventory that will be bona fide, affordable housing. We've already built 15 homes that we've done through grants through DCA. And, we're going to continue to focus on trying to expand that inventory. But ultimately, the free market is going to provide for that. And that's what, but the cost of construction is high. The interest rates are high. the cost of living is high right now.
So we got a question from Kelly in Gainesville that said, and this may be one for law enforcement tomorrow, but I'm sure you have some knowledge of this. When is Gainesville going to do something about the homeless problem?
Kelly, thank you for asking that question. Here in first week in August, myself, Zach Thompson, Julie Clay, both council members, and our city manager, Brian Lackey, we're traveling to Colorado Springs. They have done a very good job of dealing with the homeless problem out there. We're going to try to learn from them. This is something that I met with, Jane White, Joe Amerling, two homeless advocates here in our community, Mike Fisher from the 9th District. I met with them in the December before I got sworn in, so I've been north of 3 years. And I feel like we have not moved the ball much at all. But what I will say is we have gone through some ideas that we know will not work. So just because you're not seeing anything being done about it, don't think we're not trying to work to fix the problem.
And I just want to say something on Sam's behalf right here. You just heard a politician say, we tried some things, they didn't work. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep looking at it. And that's what we need from elected officials, Sam. We need people to communicate, not just when things are good, but when, hey, we tried this, it didn't work, here's what we're going to do next. People just want to be told the truth.
Martha, I tell people, and I mean this seriously, although there is a little joke in it, I tell people my favorite thing about being the mayor is meeting with constituents and talking with them. And my least favorite thing about being the mayor is talking to constituents. And the truth of that is sometimes you have to have tough conversations. The golf course just raised their rates. People are not happy about that. But we had 43,000 rounds of play out there. The course was beaten to death. And supply and demand. I mean, we're the lowest rate in Northeast Georgia, so we had to raise. And so I have to talk to people and explain this. People, not happy about their garbage pickup. We kept the rate the same, but we cut from 2 days to 1 day. We were mindful of everybody was being pinched by increased costs, so we were like, well, we're not going to raise cost because we don't need one more thing added to burden. These are not easy decisions that we make, and I just want to tell people, when we have to make decisions that affect your pocketbook, this is stuff that we really do take angst in doing. But one thing I always say about local government is I hope you see what you're getting for the local government. I know everybody wants their streets repaved. It's approaching $1 million a mile to repave a street. We want to do more, but I think if you looked at our budget, you would see that we're being good stewards.
Now, Steve sent this message in, said, has there been a conversation about the possibility of consolidation of government agencies within the county, especially police agencies, and privatization of ambulance services?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack there. So I have had conversations about privatizing the ambulance services. This has been a few years, so I'm probably not speaking exact truth on this, but the state has some dictates on that, on who can provide that. They create these districts. And so, right now, Hall County is responsible for that. As far as consolidating, we actually had conversations at one time. I know Commissioner Stowe has been an advocate about consolidating our fire departments. But it seems real simple, but let me just kind of in this sense, we are an ISO 1 rated fire department, which means for the citizens of Gainesville, your homeowner's insurance is less than people who live in rural Hall County. It's because everybody lives close by to a fire hydrant, whereas in rural, you don't. So when we discuss consolidating,
it's worse for Gainesville and better for Hall
County. So those are measures. I mean, it's just not. I get the duplication of offices. Like you'd have one fire chief and not as many lieutenants. But ultimately, that's going to be that would be a very big decision. The consolidation on police, I don't think that would happen. Of course, the sheriff just reelected. He's a constitutional officer, so I think we would always maintain to have the City of Gainesville Police Department. And we're blessed. Sheriff Couch and Chief Parrish, which I think you said you're going to have on tomorrow, they have a great working relationship, and both of those departments work really well together.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we got lots more to come right here on the Martha Zoller Show. It is the Martha Zoller Show. We'll talk more about that in the next hour. But you hear that background noise? That's because they had to pump him up so high so that they could he was speaking so low because his voice was weak because he's an old man, okay? And it created static, and that's what happened there. Roy in Hurricane Town said, he's Roy from Houston, are individuals going to be allowed to buy those affordable homes that you've set aside, or are private equity groups and hedge funds going to come in and scoop them up and then resell or rent them?
No. His first point, yes, those are going to be sold to people who qualify here locally. Individuals will be able to buy those.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good, because that has been an issue.
100%.
When I go up, I'm part of Rotary, and I sometimes I have white counties in my group of counties when I was a GRSP trustee, which is Georgia Student Rotary, Georgia Student Rotary Program. Anyway, I'll get it right, GRSP. Anyway, I went up there, and they were having big problems in White County with neighborhoods getting built and getting bought up for short-term rentals, as opposed to the idea was to have places for their tourist workers to live, to be, affordable and all that kind of stuff. But then they got bought up and they were used for short-term rentals.
Yeah, I mean, the whole housing, it is not unique to us here in Gainesville, to us here in Northeast Georgia. It's a problem. I mean, when I go to the mayor's conference, the people in Savannah, the people in Macon, the people in Fort Valley, they're all talking about affordable housing. And, as the conservative Republican, I'm also mindful of, do I really want government to get too involved in it? Because typically when government gets involved, they tend to screw things up as opposed to fix things. So is the short-term rental thing still a big thing around here in city of Gainesville? Well, I mentioned a couple of times the wedding that I was at this weekend, and I asked somebody where they were staying, and they said at a Airbnb, and I said, well, the city of Gainesville doesn't allow those. And truthfully, we do not. Now, we're not naive to know that people are doing them and using them. So Ab Hayes, our city attorney, on numerous occasions has told me and our staff that we need to address this. So they are out there. Look, when I travel, I use them. And so, I'd be a hypocrite if I told you that we're going to outlaw them and ban them from Gainesville. That's not realistic. Property owners have rights too. So, I think there is a segment that want them, and I think that we are going to have to figure out how they fit in here locally. Yeah, I do think, I've used them. My kids use them more than I do. I prefer a hotel. If I go somewhere, I prefer a hotel because I like the full service and, all that kind of stuff. You pay more for that, but not so much anymore. It used to be that short-term rentals were a lot cheaper than hotels, but it's not anymore. Yeah, we've used them typically because if it's just me and my wife, then we're going to stay in a hotel. But if one of my kids is with us, they're adults, so we'll get a 2 or 3 bedroom property. Yeah. And being able to have the kitchen there and being able to congregate with in a common area. So, but one thing's for sure, they're not declining in popularity. They're increasing in popularity. Yeah, so this year my husband and I went to Mardi Gras because my middle son married a girl who has very deep ties to New Orleans society. She was the Queen of Comus when they first met and very involved in the whole thing. They go every year. Okay, so we were invited this year to go, and so we got a Airbnb because the hotels for that period of time not only are expensive, but they require a 5-night minimum, and we were not going to stay for 5 nights. We usually just we go Friday, come back Sunday. We do the Iris Parade, which is usually on that Saturday before. I just don't want to do the whole thing. I just can't. I'm too old to do a party like that for 5 days anymore. So
5 days is just too much. So we have done Airbnbs in that case. And we had a very nice one. It was the basement of a very nice home. The ceilings were a little low, but other than that, we were just there to shower, change clothes, and get out to the next event. So it worked out fine.
Yeah. I love you bringing up Mardi Gras. I see you're wearing your purple today. You kind of almost feel like we're in February. Time to celebrate Mardi Gras. My family's from Louisiana. And so Mardi Gras always has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I had never been involved with Mardi Gras until Mark met Virginia. And the year he met her, she was Queen of Comus, which is a big deal.
Sure.
I didn't know anything about it. Her mother had been the Queen of Comus. Her grandmother was the Queen of Comus. I mean, it's just a thing. Her grandfather was the king. I'm sure at some point her brother's going to be, because it runs. Comus is evidently the crew that will not reveal their members, so they don't have parade floats anymore, and they don't have that, but they still have all the stuff that goes on with it. And so it was like she had this gown, and there were rollers on it because the train was so heavy. I mean, and a big old crown on. It was something.
If you haven't been to Mardi Gras, I mean, people think, they think of Bourbon Street, but there's so much more to what happens at Mardi Gras. And, I mean, it's just a parade, and it's one of those things like, the things that we celebrate here locally. We have a Memorial Day parade. It's that on steroids, and it's something that they're very proud in, and they do a great job at it.
They do a great job, and it's something you don't want to do every year. I mean, now Virginia and her family do it every year because it's a family tradition, but it's a fun thing to do. So anything else on your agenda?
Since we've last talked, we have a new council member, Abigail Guzman, who is a local business owner, has a business downtown. She's been serving now for a month. We've already noticed, her input is invaluable, just kind of giving us a perspective of owning a business downtown. She's, in fact, about to open a new business downtown. So just a lot of good stuff happening in the city. We're just looking forward to, managing that growth and doing the best we can.
Mayor Sam Couvillon, thanks for being with me today.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got lots more to talk about.